And I'm back with my brother Joe Habib, Mr. Ringside Reporter Live, and we've got a good one for you guys. We've got a really good one. We're going to be talking about bang for buck. We're going to look at the numbers. We're going to talk about the DAZN. We're going to talk about ESPN. We're going to talk about the various traditional and new platforms, the way boxing's being distributed. And we're going to talk about specifically this announcement that the DAZN revenue is up as of last year, and really how that happened and the consequences for boxing fans like me, who's a DAZN subscriber, like Joe, who's a DAZN subscriber, and like many of you who are also subscribers of all of the streaming platforms like DAZN and like ESPN Plus. So we've got a really good show here lined up for everybody, and we're really looking forward to getting it going. Big up right off the jump to JC, who's a member. We also have Sin Syndicate or Sin City Syndicate in the house. Joe, how's it going, fam? Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday, brother, man. Bright and early once again. Shout out to the UK people. This is primarily for you guys because you guys were able to watch us in prime time. And a lot of times you're not able to do that. So shout out to you guys. Shout out to Base the Kid who always comes on the show. He's at 12 o'clock in the morning over there when he's on our roundtables. Lady Chan comes on every once in a while too. Shout out to her. So time to give back a little bit to the UK people, right?
100%. And, it's early here in New York. The sun is just coming out. It's actually out now. But when we had started, Joe, it was actually pretty black outside while we were talking before the show. But the sun is coming out. And, what also is coming out, Joe, are these reports that the DAZN has turned a corner and is now, the revenue is up. I don't know if they're profitable yet, but the revenue is up at the DAZN. And I got news for people. Look, I said this right at the beginning, Joe. I'll speak on behalf of both of us on this one. We don't have a bias here. We're both the DAZN subscribers, and we're both ESPN Plus subscribers. And this one is speaking for myself. Joe, you're going to give your thoughts on this in a moment. But when the DAZN came out, I was very excited because I'm someone who likes the all-you-can-eat buffet. I should admit that, especially considering I put on some weight over the pandemic that I need to take off. It's still there. I had a back injury. It's still there, but we're working on it. The fact is, since the young days when there was no maestro, when it was just little Amilcar, I used to like going to the Chinese buffets, Joe. Back in the day, you used to even have all you can eat at Pizza Hut. I don't know if you remember that one with the salad bar.
Sbarro's, remember Sbarro's too, the Italian buffet?
100%. So, I like paying that flat fee and knowing that I could get all that I want. I'd overstuff myself. And I kind of saw that with the DAZN because I never liked, obviously, paying for these pay-per-views, whether it was back in the $49.99, $59, $69, $79, whatever. When I was a kid, I'd actually ask my mom to help me out with those. And then as I got older, I became responsible for purchasing pay-per-views, when I branched out and went on my own and started living on my own. So really, though, when the DAZN came out, pay-per-view was supposed to be dead. We were supposed to get all this a la carte, or not a la carte, all this, boxing content as part of a flat fee. And that honestly didn't last, 2 years, Joe?
Yeah, it didn't last.
Now it's DAZN pay-per-view. So, Joe, you take over, and we're going to look at the numbers.
Once again, we've gone over this before. I've talked about this with D-Style several times. And D-Style was one of the first people to say that when DAZN first came out, that the market that they set up, right? The plan that they set out was not going to be sustainable, right? And 6 months in, I believe they raised their price 6 months in, right? I think it went up to like 129 a year 6 months in, and it's currently at 149 right now. Now,
Originally, you could buy it at $10 a month. Remember those days?
9.99 a month, correct? Yes. And ESPN Plus, they're no angels here. They raised their price, right, to $99 a year. So currently ESPN Plus is $99 a year, and DAZN is $149 a year. So it's a 50% increase in price compared to ESPN Plus. So you have to ask yourself, right, for that price, what are both platforms giving you? And is it worth the price, right, that you had to spend, in comparison to the fights that you received, right? So you got to compare and contrast here as a consumer, right? And if you were forced to be in a situation where you had to choose one over the other, which one would you choose, right? If your back was up against the wall and you had to pick one or the other, if you had like some financial problem, whatever the case, whatever your situation was, and we're going to speak hypothetically, you had to pick one over the other. Which one would you choose? So I'm going to break it down, and Maestro is going to give his input as well on my analysis. I'm going to break it down, and you guys make the decision, and I'm going to kind of give you my opinion as well, so you can kind of have an opinion on my opinion. So if you look at these fights throughout the year, and keep in mind, I've said this before, this is where ESPN as a platform has an advantage over PBC and over DAZN, is because they have, 3 areas where they can distribute content. They have the terrestrial ESPN, they have the ESPN Plus, and they also have the pay-per-view. So they have it all covered. They have not thrown all their eggs in one basket. Whereas Showtime, they do pay-per-views, and they actually have their Showtime, which is a premium channel. Now you can argue ESPN is a premium channel, but it's included in just about everyone's cable package, unless you have the bare bones basic cable, right?
I'm pretty sure it is basic cable. I don't know of any cable
that
doesn't have ESPN.
I mean, there's one package you can get where you just get your locals, right? But most people have, that one step up, and it's significantly cheaper buying that package, right? So to get Showtime, you would have to get that package plus pay the Showtime premium cost, in other words. So ESPN is very cheap when it's, and like I said, it's in pretty much every basic package. You have to get the bare bones stripped down version of cable to not have ESPN. I mean, and if you were to compare and contrast who has ESPN compared to who has Showtime, and factor out the cost, obviously ESPN is definitely the better deal there. And, so let's just look at ESPN as close to being free TV as possible, because again, you're not paying a separate cost for the ESPN channel. It's included in a package, where Showtime, you'd have to get a premium package to have that included in your cable. So we're going to look at all these fights, right, from ESPN, ESPN Plus, and ESPN pay-per-view, and then we're going to compare that to DAZN. And then the argument's going to be, well, Beeb, like you said, ESPN has a regular channel. DAZN is a subscription. It's not fair. Well, once again, DAZN has, charges pay-per-views now, right? So they've changed their format, right? They changed their format, and they've become more and more like PBC and like ESPN because they added that pay-per-view element to their packaging, right? So we're going to look at these fights, and we're going to look at the amount of fights that we got last year on both platforms. We're going to cost it out, and we're going to make an argument which gave you more bang for your buck here. So Fury fought twice on the ESPN platform. I believe Fury White was pay-per-view, and
it was pay-per-view.
Yeah, that was a $60 pay-per-view. Or actually, I apologize, a $70 pay-per-view, right? Was Chisora on regular ESPN, or I think Chisora Fury was on
regular ESPN Plus.
Okay, so you can get that on ESPN Plus. So that was essentially, I call that a free fight.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes. Then you had Briedis, Apatai, That was a regular ESPN fight. Better Be versus Smith, which was on paper, that was a great fight. It didn't turn out to be a competitive fight, but a lot of people thought that was going to be a competitive fight, and a lot of people gave Smith a chance. That was a unification on paper. That was a great fight, and it ended up turning out to be a pretty dramatic fight if you were a Better Be fan, because he got a great knockout. Janibek fought twice on I think ESPN and once on ESPN Plus, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep.
And those were pretty decent fights, right? They were entertaining fights. And the Taylor Catterall fight, that was I think an ESPN Plus fight, if I'm not mistaken. No, that was a regular ESPN fight. I think that was another free.
Taylor Catterall was ESPN Plus, so you had both options. And just to stop you real quick, Joe, sorry to interrupt, but one of the benefits of the ESPN Plus app is you don't actually need cable if you don't want cable. You can just buy the standalone app. So
or you don't need the app. You could get it through cable because a lot of these cable boxes have the apps pre-installed.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas DAZN is not pre-installed. We're going to talk about that later. Why ESPN Plus has another advantage over DAZN. Okay, so Taylor Catterall, another fight was it was a fight for Taylor's undisputed title. That turned out to be a great fight. Had a lot of controversy, drama. Then we had the two Haney fights, which Kambosos, which were not two other free fights, undisputed fights again, right? Free fights. Lee Wood versus Michael Conlon, right? Another free fight, right? And arguably the most outlets had that as fight of the year, and many of them had that as knockout of the year. So that was probably the most eventful fight in terms of entertainment value that was given to us this year. Navarrete versus Baez. Naoya Inoue fought twice, and he had an undisputed fight with Butler, and that fight with Donaire, which was a very, very good fight as well, right? So we had 13 fights, 13 significant fights last year, or 13 fights, standout fights right there. And we had to pay $99 for the membership, and you add in that one pay-per-view fight. Keep in mind, that's one pay-per-view fight throughout the whole course of the year, right? Only one, right? And that cost you $70. So you had to pay a total price of $159 for 13 fights, okay? Whereas DAZN, let's look at DAZN. We got a yearly membership of $149, which is a 50% markup from the $99, right? And we got Usyk versus Joshua. That was free to us, but if you were in the UK, you had to buy that, right? Then we had Bivol versus Canelo, right? That's a pay-per-view fight that we had to pay for. Decent fight, not really a significant fight. I mean, Canelo's quote-unquote the super middleweight undisputed champion. He's not a real light heavyweight. So that fight really wasn't the fight that everybody wanted. It wasn't a bad fight. It was a good, on paper, it was a challenging fight for Canelo.
I was at that fight live, yeah. Yeah,
Canelo was a significant favorite, and obviously by Bivol pulling off the upset, being a 5-1 underdog, that was a memorable fight in terms of that, but he won the fight very one-sidedly, and after the fight, we were told that, that Canelo's not a real light heavyweight, whatever the case may be. Canelo versus Golovkin, another fight that no one really wanted, right? But in fairness, the Bivol Canelo fight was a good fight. On paper, that was a good fight. I don't think that was the fight most people wanted. If you were to take a poll, would you rather see Canelo fight David Benavidez or Charlo over Bivol? Most people would have taken Benavidez or Charlo. So that still wasn't the best.
Definitely in the United States. But
definitely in the United States.
What I think is important here, Joe, just one quick sec, is that these were pay-per-view on a platform that when it was introduced, we were told wouldn't have pay-per-view and would kill pay-per-view, but please continue.
Yeah. So you had Bivol versus Canelo, which was pay-per-view, and you could argue why was that pay-per-view? Bivol was not really a big name, but a lot of people say Canelo can fight the guy out of 7-Eleven, and it's going to be a pay-per-view fight because it's Canelo. Fine, however you want to justify it. Canelo versus Golovkin, another fight that no one really wanted to see. Still did some decent pay-per-view numbers. I think it did around 600,000 pay-per-view buys allegedly in the United States, which is very solid numbers in my opinion. But once again, it was a fight that most of us did not want. No one was really excited for that fight. There was no buzz around that fight. We bought it out of curiosity and because we're diehard boxing fans. And ultimately, it turned out to be a very, very one-sided, uneventful fight. Now, Golovkin-Murata, that was a very entertaining fight for as long as it lasted. But once again, would you have rather seen Golovkin in unification fights with Demetrius Andrade and Jamal Charlo? Or did you need to see that Murata fight? He was a big, I think, 5-6 to 1 favorite, 7 to 1 favorite over Murata. Most people thought that he would win. I actually did think Murata could pull the upset. I thought it was possible. But nevertheless, it was another fight that, it was a good fight, but it wasn't a fight that screamed, we need this fight. Cordina had a great fight against Osaka. He had a very, very eye-catching knockout in that fight. Great fight. But again, was that something that jumped out at you? Not necessarily, but it turned out to be a better fight and a more entertaining fight because Cordina pulled off that it was a minor upset, and he did something that he wasn't expected to do. It was a dramatic knockout, so we got to give him credit for that. It's another good fight
over Kenichi Ogawa, who had pretty much been durable up at that point in his career.
So we got to give that's a standout fight. That Cordina fight for DAZN is a standout fight. The Usyk Joshua fight, I think, was a standout fight. It was a good fight. But in fairness to the UK people, was that a pay-per-view fight? You had to buy a pay-per, you had to pay pay-per-view for that, right? So that's two fights that we got that were pretty standout fights. That you could say that were above average fights. Now, Cordina obviously wasn't a pay-per-view fight. You can make an argument in terms of Usyk versus Joshua. Should that have been a pay-per-view fight in the UK? That's open to debate. Estrada versus Chocolatito, that was another good fight. All right. Was that a great fight? No, it was a decent fight. I mean, these guys fought 3 times. It was a good fight. It wasn't a fight where you're going to put that in one of your classic all-time great fights.
It wasn't a 5-star fight.
It wasn't a 5-star fight. It was an average
3-star fight.
It was a decent fight. So out of these, we got 7 fights for DAZN, right? And we got 13 fights for the ESPN platform, right?
How many of those DAZN fights were DAZN pay-per-view fights, Joe?
We had 2 pay-per-view fights, right? So you spent $120 if you were a DAZN customer on pay-per-views, and if you were a UK DAZN customer, you actually had to spend you had to buy 3 pay-per-views at about $30 a pop, right? So you spent $90 on pay-per-view if you were a DAZN customer, but if you were a US customer, you spent $120 on pay-per-view.
And that's your first question?
So you spent $269 for 7 fights, whereas you spent $159 for 13 fights. Now, out of those 7 fights, you can argue that 2 of those fights were actually, really, one of those fights, in my opinion, was above average. And that's the Usyk Joshua fight. Now the Cordina fight ended up being, a entertaining fight, a good fight. But the one standout fight to me in terms of significance, entertainment value, the one that had it all was Usyk Joshua. Out of all those fights, that was the one fight that I really thought we needed to see. Out of those other fights, we didn't need to see those fights. They were not significant fights. We didn't need to see Bivol versus Canelo because Canelo is not a light heavyweight, according to you.
Definitely not on pay-per-view.
Yeah. Golovkin versus Canelo 3, another fight we didn't really need to see. Estrada versus Chocolatito, again, okay, but we didn't need to see that either, right? These are fights that no one was banging down the door. We have to have these fights. No one wanted that, right? So let's compare, the Fury.
Before you compare real quick, Joe, how many of those DAZN fights were unification or undisputed fights?
Well, one of the fights, actually, the Usyk Joshua fight,
1 and 2.
that's one. That was for unified titles. The Bivol fight was just for one title. The Canelo GGG fight, that was technically a unification if you count the regular title. Excuse me, the Golovkin Murata fight was a unification if you count the regular title. The Canelo Triple G, he was defending his undisputed title, so I guess that's an undisputed fight. But outside of that, I mean, you had two unification fights and one unification defense. Now,
And
if you would,
what about on ESPN?
ESPN, you had Better Beef Smith was a unification fight. Taylor Catterall was for an undisputed fight. Haney versus Kambosos, those were two
1 and 2.
two undisputed fights. Inoue was a unification fight, and then the Butler fight ended up being a unification.
So what's the tally?
So you had 1, 2, 3, 4,
counting. I mean, to
5,
me,
6. You had six unifications are undisputed versus 1, 2, 3 for DAZN.
And the difference is, I'm going to qualify the difference for all of the listeners right now, and then I want to get into some of these comments that are coming up. The difference is that none of those undisputed or unification fights on ESPN or ESPN Plus were pay-per-view, right?
Yeah.
Whereas most of the ones on the zone were pay-per-view in one or the other market, correct?
Yeah. So let's break down this ESPN schedule like we did and compare it to the DAZN schedule. Now, the Fury White fight ended up being a one-sided fight that Fury ended up scoring the knockout in. But once again, this was a fight. A lot of the Fury detractors kept saying, he's avoiding White. He doesn't want to fight White. This is a style that could trouble Fury, and a lot of people were picking White to win this fight. A lot of people were picking White to win this fight. So on paper, this was a mandatory fight. A lot of people were saying, right, that this was a big fight for Fury. Finally, White, after all those years, is going to be, get his mandatory title shot that everyone said he deserved, and Fury finally gave it to him. It was in front of 93,000 people, right? So this was a fight that people wanted to see. If you weren't going to get Fury versus Joshua or Fury versus Usyk, this was the third best fight on paper according to the public, right? And you couldn't get at that time, you couldn't get Fury versus Joshua or Usyk because they were fighting each other, right? So at that time, that was the best possible fight that Fury could have had, right? That was the fight that everyone wanted to see at that time. Everyone wanted Fury to finally defend its title, and everyone wanted for White to finally get his mandatory title shot. So on paper, that was a good fight, and it ended up being a pretty fun fight to watch while it lasted. Fury was outboxing him, and he had that dramatic knockout at the end. No one here is going to defend the Fury Chisora fight. We're not here to do that. The Breedis Apatai fight, not a great fight. But the Better Beef Smith fight, once again,
I kind of disagree with that. I mean, it was.
Well, let me go through these first, and we'll go back.
Okay.
So the Better Beef Smith fight, right? The Better Beef Smith fight, once again, on paper, that was a great fight. Now, obviously, Better Beef was the favorite, but again, people thought that Smith could give Better Beef problems because Better Beef is not as defensively talented in a lot of people's opinions as Bivol was. So on paper, that was a big unification fight. It was on free television. That was a fight that everyone was excited for and everyone was looking forward to because both guys were very offensive-minded, big punching guys. That was a fight that everyone going in was going to say, this is going to be a big barn burner fight. And it ended up being a fun fight. Obviously, it wasn't as competitive as most of us thought it would be, but nevertheless, it had an emphatic ending. And it ended up being an entertaining fight because of Better Beef. And shout out to Smith, he did his best, but couldn't really do much to fend off Better Beef. The two fights Janabek was in, once again, those weren't huge big name fights, but they were entertaining fights. They were okay fights, but once again, you didn't have to pay for it. Now the Catterall fight with Taylor, once again, Taylor was the favorite there, but Catterall was given a shot. A lot of people gave Catterall some credibility going into that fight. They said this could be a tough fight for Taylor. Taylor's having problems making the weight. This was a fight that in the UK got a lot of attention. Right, this was a fight that a lot of people were interested in. Devin Haney versus George Kambosos. You can say what you want, right? But going into that first fight with Kambosos, a lot of people were questioning if Haney could win going over to Australia. And based off of what Kambosos was able to do to Teofimo Lopez, a lot of people thought this was a 50-50 fight. This was an undisputed fight, and it was a 50-50 fight on paper, right? Haney was a slight favorite in the odds. He's like a 2-1 favorite going in, right? So on paper, that was a really good fight. Now the rematch was a fight we didn't want to see, but nevertheless, still another undisputed fight that you did not have to pay for. Now Lee Wood versus Michael Conlan, no one had to pay for this, right? This was a fight that people were looking forward to because the two guys that are pretty much in the same point in their careers, pretty much at the same level. Michael Conlan was the slight favorite, but people were not sleeping on Lee Wood either. This ended up turning out to be the fight of the year, and ended up turning out to be, in a lot of people's opinions, the knockout of the year.
Well, one quick sec, Joe. That one might have actually been on DAZN.
Lee Wood versus Michael Conlan?
I think
no, that was an ESPN fight. Michael Conlan is an ESPN fighter.
Okay.
Yeah, that was an ESPN fight. I remember watching that on ESPN. I remember that was on ESPN Plus, I believe, and I was Chromecasting that to my television set. I remember that. I remember that completely.
All right, sorry to interrupt. Go for it.
That's fine. Now Rete versus Baez, okay fight. Now Inoue versus Donaire, the rematch. That was on paper. That was another fight that a lot of people were looking forward to because Donaire, right? Donaire had that great fight with Inoue. He had that great fight with Inoue, and that was a highly anticipated fight because we wanted to see if he could replicate that performance he had in the first Inoue fight, right? So it is what it is, right? And then the Butler fight was another undisputed fight. So, we have to look at that and we have to ask ourselves, what was the better schedule? So a lot of people are saying that the Lee Wood fight was a DAZN fight. Let me double check and look it up. If I'm wrong, then I will correct that. But I almost could have positively swore that I saw that fight.
It was definitely a co-promotion, but
I know Conlan.
We remember watching it on DAZN.
Let me double check and see.
I'm not 100% sure about that, but
if I'm wrong, I will correct myself.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember who was on the call, who was on the.
I apologize. That fight was a DAZN fight.
Okay.
And that was Eddie Hearn was the promoter. So we'll give that.
That's still one fight, but here we'll
give that one to DAZN. So yeah. That's 8 fights. Okay. That's 8 fights versus the 12 fights. Okay. And and I apologize for that. That's my mistake. And what we do here is we correct ourselves. That is no problem, correcting ourselves.
No
so
we'll
put that one. We'll put that one in the other column. Thank you for correcting me, Maestro. Originally, I apologize for.
No, it's all good.
So here we go. So
we're not here to cap. We're here to have a discussion based on facts. So when the facts present themselves, we're going to talk about the facts. Sometimes people misspeak. It's no big deal. But Joe, here's I want you to kind of respond to a couple of these comments that have come up. The first one that I want you to respond to is this one right here. The DAZN lost $3 billion last year. Stop lying, you clown. What exactly is this referring to? What do you?
We already know what this guy does. I mean, you have to feel bad for people like this. So it is what it is. So
the second one, sorry, I don't know if you want to discuss this. We're being asked to talk about Katie Taylor and being on DAZN. We're being asked to talk about Dillian White being on DAZN. We've been asked to talk about Montana Love being on DAZN. Can I just quickly respond and then you go?
Yeah.
We're here to talk men's boxing right now. Okay, so if I'm having a discussion about the NBA, I'm not going to talk about the WNBA. If I'm having the discussion about the UEFA Champions League, I'm not really talking about the UEFA Women's Champions League. But if you want to interject Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano into the discussion, that's fine. But to me, that's a wash because ESPN also had the card with Clarissa Shields and Savannah Marshall. So for me, those two fights negate each other. Dillian White, not too sure why this is being brought up. Who exactly did he fight in 2022 that was a blockbuster event other than Fury at Wembley, which was on ESPN Plus? So I don't understand that. And then Montana Love, I'm sorry, but I live here in the United States. So does Joe. Far from a star. I saw him live on the undercard of Bivol versus Canelo. And he didn't really perform that well, and his fight was not for any title the last time he was on television. So our discussion is based on meaningful fights. We're talking about championship fights, okay? And I'm just keeping it a buck with everybody.
So let me recap that. We made the adjustment. We put the Lee Wood Michael Conlon fight into the DAZN column, and I apologize for the mistake, and that's what we do here when we make mistakes. So like we always do here, we're going to rank all the fights from a scale of 1 to 10. So automatically we got 12 fights compared to 8 fights. We paid $159 for 12 fights, and we only had to buy 1 pay-per-view. Now we paid a $269 annual fee if you add in the pay-per-views with DAZN, and we had to buy 2 pay-per-views, and we got 8 fights compared to 12 fights with the ESPN platform. So automatically we got more fights for less money, and we only had 1 pay-per-view versus 2 pay-per-views with DAZN. So if we were to rank these fights in terms of significance and entertainment, right, we're going to rank it. Now the Fury White fight, in my opinion, I'm going to give that one a 7.5. What would you give that one, Maestro? What would you give that one in terms of a rating from 1 to 10? Fury versus White. Maestro.
Sorry, Joe, I got disconnected there.
What would you give Fury versus White in a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of significance?
I give it a 7, but here's my issue with that. Look, it was a mandatory title defense for the WBC heavyweight title. But what I want to remind people, guys.
Let me just go through this real quick.
Okay, go.
So we got Fury versus White. We'll give that a 7, right? We'll give Fury versus Chisora. Give that one a 4, right? Breedis versus Opatai. That was a decent fight. We can give that one we want to give that one a 6.
Honestly, I actually thought that was a really good fight. I mean, Opatai got a huge upset, all right? And not only that, he fought through a broken jaw. It was a very exciting and dramatic and compelling performance.
All right, we'll give that one a 7.
I'm giving that at least a 7. I would have probably given it an 8, but we did miss one, Joe, that was been brought up by Khalif Russell. He's asking, what about Stevenson versus Valdez on ESPN?
Oh, I forgot about Jesus Christ.
That was a big fight. That was
a free fight too.
That was a free fight on ESPN and on ESPN Plus.
What about Stevenson versus Herring? Was that the same year?
And it was a unification fight.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. Okay, thank you guys. What about Stevenson versus Jamel Herring? Wasn't that last year too, or was that
Stevenson versus Herring was another unification fight?
Was that last year?
And no, it was 2021.
Okay, so we got Stevenson Valdez.
They did give us Stevenson versus Robson Conceição in what was supposed to be a unified title fight.
So that was another fight, right? In 2022?
Yeah, you're talking about a guy who holds 2 belts fighting on ESPN and on ESPN Plus.
Okay, so that's
No
another
pay-per-view.
fight. That's another fight that we got, which was for
So let me ding the bell for Khalif Russell because we did mean to discuss that one, but we overlooked it. Mistaken. Thank you.
That increases the tally to 15 fights versus 8 for DAZN. Okay, so we're gonna rank all these fights. Better Beef Smith, I'm gonna say that's at least an 8, right?
To me, that was a 9. I was at the fight. I was pumped for that fight. It was a unification fight, and I was very excited for it. It was a meaningful fight for sure. I'm giving that a 9. Come on, 3 belts are on the line, guys.
Okay, we'll give that a 9. The 2 Janabek fights, we'll give those 5 each.
Danny Dignam in the most recent one. That's a little harsh. I mean, if I'm grading that as a teacher, that would be a fail. Anything lower than a 65 is a fail here in New York City. So I'm going to give that a 6.5. I don't think it was a fail. It was a soft pass.
We'll give those 2 fights 2 6s, right?
Yeah, a soft pass.
Taylor Catterall, I would give that one an 8.
That's an 8 minimum. That's an undisputed championship fight at 140. That's at least an 8.
Haney's first fight with Kambosos.
That's a 10 out of 10 fight.
We'll give the first one a 9, and we'll give the second one a 6. How's that?
I mean, going into that first fight with Kambosos, with all of the drama with the 4 belts on the line, Haney going in as the quote-unquote...
All right, 9.5.
No, his dad being denied a visa, it was a big deal.
9.5. Navarrete versus Baez, that's a 6 in my opinion.
Yeah. I'm not giving it more than that.
Inoue versus Donaire, in his first fight last year.
Bro, that's a 10 out of 10 fight, bro. You got a first ballot Hall of Famer versus a first ballot Hall of Famer fighting each other for 3 belts on the line.
Give that one a 9.
Okay, I'm giving that a 10, but we're doing the Beeb scoring, ladies and gentlemen,
because we don't want to be considered biased, like we're giving him too much. All right, so the Butler fight, that was an undisputed fight. He was a huge favorite. We got to give that one at least what? We'll give that one
I'm giving it an 8.5 because it's 4 belts on the line, even though I thought it was going to be a blowout.
Well, let's give it a 7.5 because it was a blowout. How's that?
4 belts on the line, bro.
All right, we'll give it an 8.
Come on, Joe. This is undisputed fight. 4 belts on the line.
Stevenson versus Valdez.
An 8.
Stevenson versus Valdez, a unification. The 2 best fighters in the division.
That's an 8.5 at least.
That's gonna at least be an 8.5.
It's an 8.5.
Right? Stevenson Valdez, that's an 8.5.
A boxing pound for pound, Jack. Thank you for the comment, but Ioka versus Joshua Franco wasn't on any major platform here in the United States. It was very difficult for me to find that fight. I found it using all kind of backdoor channels, the Japanese streams, but that wasn't. So that's why I'm not counting that fight.
Valdez versus Conceição going in. I picked Conceição to win. I'm going to give that one at least a 7.5. I mean, that's a 7.5.
That's a 7.5 for sure. It's a 7.5.
Okay, now we're going to rank these other fights. Usyk versus Joshua. I'll give that one.
I think you got to remove the Conceição Valdez fight, though. I don't believe that was in 2022. I think that was 2021.
I apologize. Okay.
So just
sure?
Yeah. I can look it up, but I'm pretty sure. Yep, it was. I'm looking at a 2020.
No, I was thinking about Valdez Conceição. When was the Valdez Conceição?
That's what Shakur Conceição was 2022. Valdez Conceição was 2021.
And Stevenson Valdez was that 2021?
That's definitely 2022.
Okay, I apologize. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
I'm not counting Loma versus Ortiz, Michael Buford, because Loma versus Ortiz didn't have a belt on the line. We're keeping this to championship fights, guys. Fights for belts.
So we got 13. We got 13 fights for the ESPN platform. We got 8 right now for the DAZN platform. So Usyk versus Joshua, we're going to give that one a 10. right?
That's a 10 out
Bivol,
of 10, yeah.
Bivol versus Canelo, right? We'll give that one a 7.5.
I'd go a little bit higher
We'll give
personally.
that an 8. We'll give that an 8. We'll give that an 8.
No. Actually, you know what? No, I can't go higher than 7.5, and I'll tell you why. Because it's on fucking pay-per-view.
Yeah, 7.5.
If it was regular DAZN, I would have given it higher. But as a that you gotta change the grading scale for a pay-per-view at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. Okay. Canelo versus Triple G. Right. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we got 8 fights. So Canelo versus Triple G. I'm gonna give that one. I'm honestly gonna give that one a 5.
I can't fail it. Again, I'm going by the DOE grading scale.
I'm giving it a fail. I'm giving it a fail.
65. It's a pass at 65 for me, like a soft pass.
That's a pay-per-view, and a Triple G never fought at 168. 40 years old, very one-sided. That's got to be a fail.
That's a fail. That's a fail on pay-per-view.
Come on, man.
And you're right. You're right. And the other thing too, and I was at that fight live, by the way, in Vegas. I don't know. It kind of felt like a dud, bro. I'm like,
that's a dud.
I traveled cross country for this.
Golovkin
feeling there when I was there, honestly.
Golovkin versus Murata. Give that one.
I'm giving that one a 7.5. It was a unification.
It's a 7.5.
It was a unification fight, and it wasn't on pay-per-view.
Cordina fight. That's a 7.5. We'll give that a 7.5.
That 7.5.
Could we give that? Should we give that one an 8?
I mean, it's tough.
7.5. That's a 7.5.
I mean, the knockout was definitely 10 out of 10 for sure.
We'll give that one an 8. We'll give that one an 8. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
We'll give that one an 8. That ended up having a lot of drama to it. Okay, the Akhmadaliev fight. That's about a 7. Right.
7.5. I mean, they were unification fights at least.
Give that one a 7.5. The Estrada Chocolatito fight. I'm going to give that one a 7. The Lee Wood Michael Conlon. We may have to give that one a 10.
That was a 10. That was one of my fights.
10.
I got to keep it real. That was a 10. That was a 10 out of 10. Regardless of whether, I mean, it was for a Reggie belt, technically, but that's only because the super champ in Leo Santa Cruz had been inactive in the division for what, going on 2 years now?
Yeah.
So for all intents and purposes, it was the real WBA regular championship, and now it has been the championship.
So we're gonna do the calculator here, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna add up and we're gonna do the average for in terms of how we rated these fights and who had the better rating. Now, keep in mind, DAZN may end up with the better rating here, but you have to price out, was the cost worth the amount of the amount better than what, like if you spent a certain amount, is it worth the amount that you spent? Was it that much better in terms of costs, right? So this is going to be interesting here. And also keep in mind that you had 13 fights on the ESPN platform because you had the regular channel, because you had the app, and because you had the pay-per-view. Whereas DAZN, you just had the app and you had the pay-per-view. And as we spoke about this earlier, Maestro, all of these cable companies with their box have the DAZN, not have the ESPN Plus app pre-downloaded in there. You have access to that, whereas you don't have that ability with DAZN, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know more about that than me, Joe, because I'm a cord cutter, and my main TV is a smart TV. Actually, they all are Roku smart TVs with ESPN Plus app in it. I also have YouTube TV, but I don't have like Comcast or like these other cable companies. But I know people who do, and yeah, they've told me, and when I go to their homes too, that yeah, those apps, even like Netflix, is preloaded in there.
Yeah. And we also talked about how DAZN should try to reach out to these cable providers and should try to reach out to these satellite providers and try to have their app as part of the package, like with Comcast, my Hulu, my Disney Plus, like my Hulu, not my Hulu, but my Netflix, my Peacock, certain apps, they're included in your package, right? Whereas the Zone's not included in any package. They should try to reach out and see if they could do that, right?
What was wrong with the note with Donaire Inoue, Larry Merchant, or Inoue Donaire, actually #2? I mean, that was a very compelling fight. Inoue had been on a knockout streak. He beat Donaire, who had looked spectacular since dropping back down to 118 pounds. Donaire had broken, what was it, 2 orbital bones in Inoue's face in the first fight. Joe, I mean, I was excited for that rematch.
I mean, it's his opinion. Again, that's his opinion. That's fine.
So
say what you want. So we got an average score for the fights on DAZN, 7.81. And keep in mind now, you got 8 fights with DAZN as opposed to 13 with the ESPN platform, right?
Yeah.
So now we're gonna rank these other fights here from the ESPN platform, right?
So as Joe does that calculation, I mean, I have to say this, and what I have to say about the DAZN situation, the announcement that they're generating more revenue now. I'm seeing other channels talking about this. Look, it's very clear to me why they have increased revenue. The reason they have increased revenue is because their cost, the cost of the consumer, that is, has gone up, meaning you can no longer purchase DAZN for $10 a month. You can no longer purchase DAZN for $100 a year, right? It's now $20 a month or $150 a year. And while the cost to the consumer has gone up, the actual output of significant, meaningful fights, especially those involving Canelo, especially those involving AJ, is plummeted because they're now on pay-per-view. So you're no longer getting those as part of your monthly or yearly DAZN package unless you're putting in extra money to buy it on pay-per-view. So all of the bells and whistles and all of the cheerleading that's going on about DAZN is generating more revenue. One, I don't understand why a boxing fan is celebrating that. And two, the reason I don't think they should be celebrating that is because it's come at the expense of hardworking, money, money producing subscribers. Right? That's not a celebration event, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're increasing revenue, but at what cost? Just look at the title of the video.
Yeah, I mean, the cost is consumers are paying. Pay-per-view isn't dead. No, DAZN is on pay-per-view, right? And the other thing that's happened too is if you're a UK fan of the sport, I mean, now the UK's quote unquote leading promoter in Matchroom is spending less and less time on the UK market, which is allowed for Queensbury to kind of take off, especially in the heavyweight division, and which has allowed Sky and Boxer to kind of take off as well on the domestic scene in the UK. And what's interesting to me is when you look at the first 2 months of DAZN's schedule, there wasn't any significant boxing on there at all. And what's interesting to me too is now DAZN is doing what they did when Eddie still had the agreement with Sky. DAZN is now purchasing Sky fights, because it wasn't announced, Joe, this week that the Eubank Jr. versus Liam Smith fight is going to be on DAZN in the UK. It's very interesting development. Joe Habib, you got the numbers?
So we got DAZN at a 7.8 average score, and we got the ESPN as an average score of a 7.3. So DAZN has a slightly higher score, right? They have a half percentage point higher. But keep in mind, you had to pay for 2 pay-per-views, as opposed to one, right? And you got 8 fights, right, as opposed to 13, and you paid $269 as opposed to 159. So you got a slightly higher quality of fight, but you got less fights, and you paid 2.5 times the amount compared to the ESPN platform. So you have to ask yourself, to justify that 2.5%, right? The average fight would have to be significantly better, whereas it's marginally better, and that's still debatable. That's still, we gave these fights the benefit of the doubt. So, judging by these metrics, right, you could argue that these fights were slightly better. But think of this: if you can only produce a slightly better quality of fight, and you're charging 2.5 times the price as your competitor,
For fewer,
and you're providing fewer fights, right? And you got financial backing, right, of $200 million a year, allegedly, right? And you can only come up with this. They should be knocking it out of the park, and they're essentially going neck and neck. They have a significantly bigger war chest than the ESPN platform, because we all know ESPN is more vested into MMA as opposed to boxing, right? So ask yourself that question. You're getting a marginally better quality of fight, but you're getting less of them, but you're paying 2.5 times the cost. So you have to ask yourself, is that worth it?
yeah, and I think a lot of people have been asking themselves if it's worth it, Joe. I mean, I'm sure you get it here in your comment section. I definitely get it on my comment section on my channel. People are canceling their DAZN memberships.
Yeah, no one's really canceling their ESPN Plus membership.
Or they're going month to month and just buying it when there's a fight they want to watch, right?
And here's another argument we can also make too, Maestro. Going back to if you had to choose one over the other, you could cancel both, Maestro, and still get boxing on the regular ESPN channel. So if you really wanted to cut your costs, you could cancel both apps, right? And still get a decent amount of boxing on the regular ESPN channel. Right?
This is 100% true. And I do want to respond to a question. I think it was a kind of a valid question that came up asking us, were the PBC fights? Well, the difference is, I'll ask you this, Joe, does the PBC have its own app?
They have
They do not.
They don't have like they have like a Showtime app, but the PBC does not have their own app.
PBC does not have an app. So
no.
The PBC, doesn't have a network like ESPN. So we're not talking about the PBC right now.
Well, here's the thing, man.
Go for it.
The PBC is not even worth talking about, because they're not even, they're the shittiest value out of all three of them. Both platforms destroy the PBC, and unfortunately, and I hate saying this, I root every day for the PBC to fail, so these other fighters will come over to these other platforms, because I think that would help out boxing significantly, right? So
there was a time, Joe, where I was actually hoping the PBC would link up with DAZN and get all their fights on DAZN, because here in the United States, DAZN needs content. Like,
so we're gonna.
Are not as popular on television in the US as they are in the UK. I'm sorry.
So we did a fair analysis of this, I believe, and I think we were very objective. And you have to ask yourself, really, by doing what we did, what is the better value? And I think it's pretty fair to say, with this evidence that we provided, that DAZN is not that value. So you're getting less for the increase, right? You're definitely getting less for the increase, in my opinion. We'll do the poll. We'll put a poll. What is the better value, right? What's the better value? The zone or
ESPN or DAZN?
zone? ESPN.
And if you want to chime in over the phone, I've opened up the bat line over here, 718-618-4284. 718-618-4284. If you want to call in, we're gonna take calls. And I don't know if you want to drop a link or not, Joe.
Yeah, I'll drop a link. Fuck it. Why not? I don't give a fuck. Do that. So I think we gave DAZN every benefit of the doubt here, honestly. And we've given them credit for the fights. The fights were not bad, but were they worse? But were they worth the increase?
That's
right?
the real question.
You're getting, and here's the thing: you should be getting better fights if the platform has a bigger budget. Now their budget is significantly bigger than ESPN's budget in terms like DAZN has a huge boxing budget in comparison, much bigger boxing budget in comparison to the ESPN fighters, right? In the ESPN platform. The DAZN fighters are making significantly more money. Like Joshua and Canelo, no one's making anywhere, like except for Fury, right? Fury's right there with those two guys. But then you take a look at Canelo, you take a look at
Triple G,
excuse me, not Kelly. You took a look at Triple G, and you look at some of these other fighters on that platform, like Dillian White makes decent money. He's been on that platform. Chisora's been on that platform. When you look at all the fighters over in that DAZN platform and look at how much they make in comparison to the fighters over at ESPN Plus, they have significantly much more money to work with, but they're only giving you a slightly better product, arguably, right?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear. I mean, whether you want to do it quantitatively or qualitatively, we're getting more bang for our buck for
with
our
ESPN
right now than we are for our DAZN.
So if you're going to be charging the most, but in fairness, PBC is probably charging the most out of all of them. But their fights are of such low significance and quality, most of them, that they're not even worth discussion here. I don't even think PBC is a worthy competitor to either platform, in my opinion. That's debatable.
I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, what is the PBC? It's not a broadcaster.
They've turned into a pay-per-view arm now.
It's not a promoter. I mean, if you look at who the promoter is on these cards, it's usually Tom Brown, right? So it's difficult to compare and do a contrast with between the PBC and Matchroom, or the PBC and DAZN, which is what we're doing, or the PBC and ESPN Plus / ESPN. No. It's apples and mangoes. It's not even apples and oranges. I mean, it's apples and watermelons. It's totally two different spheres.
Now, in fairness, this is what the argument can be made. Oh, well, Bivol's the fighter of the year. He's a DAZN fighter. Lee Wood versus Michael Conlan, fight of the year, knockout of the year. Once again, on DAZN. Oh, well, DAZN gave you the most memorable moments in 2022. You could argue that, possibly, if you wanted to. We're not going to dispute that. But once again, I
would dispute that.
You could dispute it. But we're giving, this is a benefit of the doubt statement, right? Yeah. This is a devil's advocate statement. It could be open to discussion. In fairness.
I mean, it's not absurdo against Bivol, right? On paper, to me, that wasn't really. I wasn't looking forward to that fight any more than I was looking forward to Joe Smith Beterbiev unification fight, 3 belts on the line. Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano, again, that gets washed out by the all-female card that happened on Sky in the UK and on ESPN here in the US, right?
Yeah. So in fairness, you could. There's a strong argument that Inoue's fighter of the year over Bivol.
100%.
So and in terms of, like, again, this is all subjective stuff. This is not etched in stone. But that even if that is your counter argument, you're still paying 2.5 times the cost to have a comparable product, right? You're getting less fights, and they're comparable in terms of level of significant and level of entertainment value. Is it still worth that significant jump in price if they're closely comparable? Is what I'm trying to say.
Who did Inoue fight? BZ Worlds. He fought Nonito Donaire, who's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and it was looking amazing at 118. That's who Inoue fought. So
it's opinion based. I mean, if you have your opinion, then there is a significant amount of people, right, that would say Inoue is their fighter of the year. He's definitely worthy of being in the conversation, in my opinion.
I mean, Gervonta Tank Davis is an example of a guy who demonstrates quite perfectly the problem with PBC. It's a guy who's in meaningless fights on pay-per-view, one meaningless fight after another on pay-per-view. I don't know why we need to apologize to him. And again, he's an example of why the PBC isn't even being discussed here. That was a $70 fight for taking on a 16-fight professional novice, pretty much being brought up from the lower weight classes. I understand, BZ, that he's your guy. I understand, BZ, that you probably stream the fight and even pay for it. I understand perfectly that you get gassed up by Gervonta taking guys plucked from lower weight divisions with less than 20 fights. I get that, but we're not talking about that. We're comparing DAZN with ESPN.
If we're gonna do bang for buck, then PBC doesn't even factor in here. They don't even factor in here, right? So
no, they don't factor in. And my question for you, Joe, is how long is this going to continue? How long is DAZN going to be throwing, money into Matrimony? Well, BZ's joined us. BZ, what's good?
Good morning, Beebs.
What's up?
You need to apologize to Gervonta Davis.
Never. I think he did
wrong.
it. I think he did it.
You was wrong.
I think he did it.
You seem racist. You come off racist. You need to apologize.
I think you're racist. I don't think you like white people.
Let me talk.
I don't think you like white people.
Let me talk.
I don't think you like white people. So I think you're racist.
Let me talk.
I don't think you like white people.
Let me talk.
I think you're racist. Are you racist?
Let me talk. No, I'm not racist.
Why? You don't like you're attacking me. I'm a
you
white
asked
person.
the question. You asked the question. You're answering the question.
Okay.
So let me talk now. You asked if I'm racist. I told you no, I'm not.
Okay.
Okay, so now with that answer, how you come off, I know you're racist. So let me see what I gotta say now.
I know you're racist because you're attacking the white man.
Dana White, you seen Dana White on camera slap his wife.
Made a video about that too, said the same thing.
You ain't come out and bash Dana White like you bashed Gervonta Davis.
I didn't.
For a whole hour.
I didn't.
And listen, his baby mother came out. His baby mother came out and
did I make a Dana White video? Yes or no?
His baby
did I make a Dana White video? Yes or no?
Did
I make a Dana White video? Yes or no? Did I make a Dana White video? Yes or no? Did I make a Dana White video? Yes or no? Did I make a Dana White video? Yes or no?
Not bashing him like I watched the whole thing. Not bashing him like how you did Gervonta Davis. Not bashing him like how you did Gervonta Davis.
Okay.
Maestro, good morning, Maestro. Maestro, you're disappointed, Maestro, because you're Jamaican. I think you're Jamaican. If I can be all the way 100.
Well, I got Jamaican background, yes, sir.
Maestro, let me talk, Maestro, please.
On one side of my family, yeah.
Maestro, let me jump in, please.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. I'm answering your question.
Maestro, you as a black man on that panel, Maestro, we all on YouTube right now because why? We like the sport.
Correct.
So it's not about no color. We see a fighter, a nigga get his ass.
You just made it about color. You just made it about color. You
Maestro,
called me a racist.
What are you?
And I think you're a racist.
I never said you were racist. I said you're coming off racist. I never said you were racist.
Why?
You were in the first minute. It's only 1 minute. It's only 2 minutes I've been on. Hold on, Maestro. Let me go. Hold up, Beeps. You won. It's your show. You won. I just wanted to tell you something. My turn now, Maestro. Because I guarantee your view's going to be up after this. Maestro, you on a panel, Maestro. I understand that you don't want to come off or bias or anything like that.
Correct.
But goddamn bias, man. Goddamn Maestro, man. You as a black person, bro, you got to be both sides. You got to stand up. Even if you're not going to take up for Javante Davis, you got to tell Beeps that shit is wrong.
It's not wrong. He hit his wife. You have to expect more from people.
Can I respond?
Yes, Maestro. I want you to respond, Maestro, please.
All right. So number one, I separate the boxing from what goes on outside of the ring. All right.
Yeah.
In terms of what goes on inside of the ring, all right, I've been labeled a Teofimo Lopez hater. I've been labeled the AJ hater. I've been labeled a Javonte Tank Davis hater. And with Javonte Tank Davis, it's very simple for me.
Let's stay there.
Hold up. With Javonte Tank Davis, it's very simple for me. You got people going out of their way. One of them is a sub to my channel. I consider him a friend, right? As much as you can be a friend with somebody that's in another country and you do YouTube stuff with. Tony P loves to talk about the man being a 3-division world champion. Stop it. He's not. People want to act like these fights are meaningful fights. Stop it. They're not meaningful, okay? Hold up. We're going to talk about other stuff later. I'm just keep it boxing right now. Hector Garcia.
Listen. I don't care what you think about his boxing. That's your business. That's your opinion.
By the way, Hector Garcia, a fellow Caribbean dude, I'm guessing you are as well. Getting underpaid in a pay-per-view to basically be cannon fodder for Javonte Tank Davis, okay? But prior to that...
Maestro, please, man. You on some... We don't care about none of their paychecks. We don't care about that. We're talking about him saying the man beat his wife and he should go to prison, and he did it. And his baby mother comes out and said, he did not do it. I apologize. Forget everything else. I ain't talking about no money. I ain't talking about we buying pay-per-view fights or streaming it. We're talking about the facts, brother.
I got it. So I'm going to go respond to that.
Yes, that's all I want you. I'm with you. I bought the fight for $80 the other day. I'm a boxing fan. I got $80 to spend. I don't care. I bought the fight. My problem was
you got to let me respond.
Sorry. Apologize.
So look, at the end of the day, Joe is entitled to his opinion. Joe is somebody who looks, you gotta let me finish. If everything I say is gonna trigger you, this ain't gonna work. You gotta let me finish what I'm saying.
You gotta stop being feminine, bro. You gotta be a man when you come on this. You can't be so emotional. That's a female tactic.
You're a faggot. You ain't got no kids. You ain't got no wife. You ain't got nothing. You're a faggot.
Excuse me. We're not gonna do that right now.
He just did it. You didn't tell him that. You didn't tell him what he told me a while ago. You didn't tell him that. He told me I'm acting feminine.
You're acting feminine, bro.
Listen,
and you're acting like a faggot.
Are we gonna have a discussion about this or no? I mean, if
you're acting feminine,
you can't just to yell at me.
And people who call other people, people who call other people. How do I know you're not? How do I know you're not just projecting? You are who you're calling me. I think people usually use that word more often than not. They are. Maybe you are.
I have a woman.
Maybe you got a guy on the side.
I live
Maybe
with a woman.
You do both.
I live with a woman.
Maybe you do both.
Beebs, I live with a woman.
Maybe you do both.
Listen, Maestro, if you can't be honest, Maestro, you can't be honest, Maestro. From I came on the show, I've been in his skin. He can't take it because why? I'm calling him out on it. Go ahead, Maestro.
And what? You just admitted you don't like white people. You're a racist.
I never. You're a liar. Never.
You don't like white people. You're attacking me. You're attacking me because
God tried me, killed me.
You're attacking me because I never said
that. Because that's not true.
Here's why you're a racist. Maestro has the same opinion that I have, right? But you're only attacking me and you're not attacking him. You're a racist.
I never seen Maestro on that video. I never seen Maestro. Maestro and I both did a video. Maestro and I both did a video on it last week, and you saw it and you left a comment on it, and you're only attacking me, not Maestro. You're a racist. I seen you. You are a racist. You are a racist person. I seen you. You are a racist person. I just told you, Maestro, as a black man. You are a liar and a racist because Maestro said the same things I said, and you're only attacking me because you don't like the color of my skin. No, you didn't. That's why I said Maestro. of
as
my
a black
skin.
man on the panel. That's why I said, Maestro, you as a black man on the panel.
Skin. You don't like the color of my skin.
That's impossible. I swear to God.
Because my name's being brought up and I got to say something.
Please.
And I really appreciated that people didn't interrupt. So
I'm muting.
The fact of the matter is this. I was one of the few people, and Joe was as well, who came online on our own channels and said that the Rolly fight shouldn't have been stopped prior to the first one. Let me finish what I'm saying. So I made it clear that I believe in innocent until proven guilty. I made it clear that I didn't think it was right that Rolly got canceled, right? And he got replaced by Isaac Pitbull Cruz. Joe had the same argument as far as I remember. Joe, you can correct me when I'm wrong later, if I'm wrong later.
I don't think Rolly did it.
Tank Davis situation, all right? My opinion was like, listen, Showtime's acting hypocritical. Why did they cancel Rolly, but they're not canceling Tank? Personally,
You asked the question.
I'm no. I'm done. Not done. So personally,
protect your black woman. Protect your black woman. Protect your black woman. Don't let your black women get beat up like that.
Personally, I don't think that fights should be canceled until
protect your black woman, Beezy.
Are proven guilty. But here's where I side with Joe. At the end of the day, there are multiple reports out there, right, that would lead one to believe that this Ryan versus Tank fight is probably not going to happen because he's got a court date set for February, and this fight, we're being told, is going to happen in April. Do the math. He's facing 14 charges.
My turn?
He's got
my turn yet.
For next month. Stop the cap, all these people that are selling us this fight. Stop the cap. Should he be allowed to fight until he's proven guilty? Absolutely. Will this fight likely not happen given the current state of affairs? Abso-fucking-lutely. Go for it.
Okay, thank you, Maestro. Maestro, brother, you just made the... Okay, hold on, Maestro. Let me go back to Beebs real quick. All right, so Beebs, you said I came on and I didn't get on Maestro like I got on you.
No, you didn't get on Maestro because you're racist. You don't like white people.
Bro.
You just told me you don't like white people.
You told me
you don't have to like white people. I'm not mad at you for not liking white people. Thank you for admitting it. Thank you for admitting you don't like white people.
Okay, all right, whatever you say. All right, so Maestro, right? I came on, Maestro, what the first thing I said to you, Maestro? I said, Maestro, you as a black man on the panel, and you got Beebs talking that kind of crazy stuff. You got to say something.
Job to protect Tank Davis. It's not my job to cape for him. Joe is entitled to his opinion.
No. I'm just asking. Okay, I get what you're saying, but didn't I say that to you, though? Didn't I say that to you at first when I first came on? Didn't I say that to you?
I mean, the first thing you started saying was that Joe needs to give an apology to Tank.
And after that, I got on you and said to you, Maestro,
black man, I should have basically been defending Tank Davis. No, I don't. It's not my job to do that.
Hold on. Okay. All right. So Beebs, I did come on there and I checked Maestro too.
No,
Hold on.
Like
let me go.
It's okay. You don't like white people.
Let me go. Maestro.
Thank you for telling me you don't like white people. So now I know what I'm dealing with.
Maestro, you don't see
now
what's
I know
going
what
on,
I'm dealing with.
I'm a boxing fan.
With a person
I'm a
that doesn't
real
like
boxing
white
fan.
people.
He can't tell me nothing.
I'm dealing with a person who doesn't like white people.
Listen, the reason why Javante Davis got him so mad, because he run the sport. And I'm gonna tell you right now, the man baby mother came out and said he didn't do anything, and he still believes him. He still believes her, and she said it was a lie, and he still's going at her.
Believes,
come on, man.
Joe doesn't know this woman. Joe is going off of what was stated in the police report. Now, if you want to say that the police report was false, that's another story. Because, by the way, Joe,
no, what she said. Forget that. What did she say?
I don't believe a word she says. I believe what the police report says and the court documents say.
Where's the bruises? Where's the busted lip?
I haven't seen any pictures of the girl.
You're a faggot, Joe. Get off my shit. You a fag.
Well, and this is what being on boxing YouTube is like, ladies and gentlemen. Every once in a while.
What was that debate all about?
So because you know it's funny to me.
What was that debate all about?
Right here we got a good comment from La Familia Barnett. All right, it says, what about the woman he ran over with his car? What about the other charges?
Here's the problem.
People never talk about that case. They always talk about this lady that took her story back.
Here's the problem.
We're talking about the 14 counts primarily.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem, Maestro. They're still going through with charging him with the domestic violence because they have evidence. If she didn't have the bloody lip and the bruise on her face from the police reports, right, then they wouldn't be going ahead with the prosecution. He's still being charged with it. They haven't taken away the charges. They haven't taken away the charges. He's still being charged with domestic violence. They're still investigating the case.
Should he be allowed to earn a living until he's proven guilty? I believe he should be, but that's separate from the discussion about whether or not this fight with Ryan Garcia is likely to happen.
Listen,
this is what I get. I go, oh, John Jones got the same charge. No, they're not. You're a lot. Like, whoa.
First of all, John Jones admitted and apologized for what he did, and he was wrong, and no one defended him. Tank Davis has yet since to apologize to this woman he injured, has yet said that he was wrong, right? I can read you John Jones's statement, right? And he had to pay fines, right?
So back it up for a second. Back it up. I want you to talk about the difference between John Jones and Gervonta Tank Davis. What are the differences here?
First of all, John Jones apologized, right? And he admitted he was wrong, right? And he actually pled guilty. John Jones pled guilty and admitted wrongdoing. Tank has 14 charges on him, and he made a plea of not guilty. So it's totally different, right? It's totally different. Totally different. He made the statement, right, and apologized and pled guilty, right, and admitted wrongdoing. Tank did not. Tank did not. And that's the difference. That's the difference.
Well, look, I just don't understand this idea.
Here's the statement. Here's the statement. Here's the statement.
Hold up, Joe. So you're going over the statement of John Jones with regards to the thing that's supposedly similar to Tank Davis, right?
Yep. Here's the thing. Let's read the statement of John Jones, right? And answer me this question. Answer me this question. Is there any similar statement out there from Tank Davis? Because he pled not guilty. John Jones pled guilty. He admitted he did what he was charged with. With regards to today's decision made by the court, I am very happy to now be able to put this incident behind me. My actions have caused pain and inconvenience in the lives of others, and for that, I am truly sorry, and I accept full responsibility. I have been working hard during this time away from my sport to grow and mature as a man and to ensure nothing like this happens again. I have learned a great deal from this situation, and I am determined to emerge a better person because of it. I apologize to those who are affected by my actions in this incident, and I am hopeful that I will be given the opportunity to redeem myself in the eyes of the public, my family, friends, as well as my supporters. I am not sure what the future holds for me, but I plan to continue to do the work needed to be productive and successful in every aspect of my life, right? So show me any statement remotely similar to that from Tank Davis.
I think that's the difference.
I'm a man with an opinion. My opinion, right, has no bearing on what the court is going to do with Tank Davis. But here's the problem. The court is still going ahead with this domestic violence case. And I've already read the statistics off, right? 80% of women recant their claims after reporting a domestic violence incident for a number of reasons. That's why when the police go to these scenes, they try to get as much evidence as possible, right? Because they know there's a high probability that the woman is going to recant her claims. And the reason why the woman recants her claims is because a lot of times they're financially dependent on the assailant. They have children with the assailant, right? The assailant talks to them and convinces them, hey, I'm sorry, it'll never happen again. And 80% of the time, statistics have shown that these women who have been assaulted multiple times, it's happened by the same assailant. I'm just going off of statistics. Now, if that police report said there was no bruises or no bloody lip, then I would give him more of the benefit of the doubt. If this guy did not have that video of showing him snatch that woman out of the chair by her throat, I would give him the benefit of the doubt. If this man did not pay out $250,000 to a person that he assaulted at an ATM machine from an out-of-court settlement, I would give him the benefit of the doubt. If this man did not pay out monetary settlements to 3 of the victims in this hit-and-run case, right, which is somewhat of an admission of guilt, right, then I would give him the benefit of the doubt. But he's pled innocent to all these 14 charges, right? He's pled innocent to all these 14 charges, and he has not apologized to the woman he injured. And this woman had to get gallbladder surgery. She injured her knee so bad that she has to get therapy for her knee. And she's been told by a doctor her life will never be the same physically ever again. And Tank has never apologized for that. He looked her in the eye, and she was crying, begging him to help her.
Allegedly, but you believe that.
That's her statement.
That's the statement.
And because of that statement, his plea deal was rejected according to the judge. So that's it.
It was an emotional statement made in court.
So Beezy, we've come to one conclusion here, and I'm not even a religious person, Beezy. I'm not a religious person, but guess what? I'm going to say a prayer for you today before I go to bed, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to say a prayer for you, because I hope that you can rehabilitate your mindset and stop hating people that have this color skin, and I want you to love your black women as much as you love black men. Because black women have worth too in the black community. They should be cared for and protected and respected just as much as the black man. Maestro, you're married to a black woman, right? And yes, I'm sure your first call of duty to your wife is to protect her. Correct?
100%.
So Beezy, right? Beezy doesn't feel that the life of a black woman is worth the same as a black man. So I'm not even religious, and I'm going to have to pray for him. Horrible. It's horrible that he does not care about the life of a black woman. He only cares about the life of a black man who makes a lot of money and has a status, right? So it's okay if you have status and you make a lot of money and you're able to pay people off settlements, right? That's going to justify you going around having an anger problem and assaulting and hurting people. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Well, here's my thing, Beezy, and this is a legitimate question for you, brother. You're married. You've got kids. What if they were in the car that got hit?
What if your daughter came home to you, Beezy, with a bloody lip and a scar on her face, and she was married to a guy like Tank Davis, or had a child with a guy like Tank Davis, and then afterwards she says, Tank Davis did this to me, Daddy, but after a day, 24 to 48 hours, she comes back and says, Daddy, he didn't do this to me. Then you ask your daughter, well, sweetheart, where did you get the bloody lip from? Oh, I don't remember, Daddy. Or I fell in the shower, Daddy. What would you say to your daughter, Beezy? What would you say to your daughter, Beezy? I'm starting to worry about you as a husband And as a father, if you're gonna justify this behavior, right? You're gonna justify this behavior, then I'm worried about you. And first of all, this is all my opinion. Tank Davis will have his day in court. And whatever the legal system says and decides to do with Tank Davis, we have to accept that.
I'm not quite understanding this idea that you haven't spoken about Dana, or maybe they're talking about me. I mean, I've been very vocal about Dana for years. I think he's a piece of shit. I think he underpays all of his fighters.
I don't like Dana White either.
You know, just the way he speaks and relates to people. And he just comes across as a meathead. And that was actually proven to be 100% true when he put hands on his wife. And here's the thing that a lot of people haven't really talked about. And actually, I heard H Money make this point, Joe, with you here. And by the way, you did do a live on this topic because I was watching it on my break at work. He actually was grabbing the woman's arm quite forcefully. And in response to that, she slapped him. And then in response to that, she got slapped up at least twice from what I saw. So, you know, nobody's given Dana White a pass. Joe was very, very harsh against Dana White, and I have been harsh against Dana White for years, shitting on the UFC. For years, talking about how I think Dana White is a degenerate. And by the way, if you're a boxing fan, he literally, his business plan was to go head-to-head against boxing pay-per-views, big nights on HBO, big nights on Showtime, and try to take over Saturday night as a night for fans of combat sport. That was the Dana White. So
I'll be honest with you.
Dana White on this side, trust me.
I'll be honest with you. If the UFC or ESPN or whoever the powers that be decides to fire Dana White, I would be 100% on board with it. And I'll be honest with you. I would like to see Dana White get fired from the UFC. I don't think he's a good representation of what an owner of a company should be. I think he's very disrespectful to the press. I hated what he did to Ariel Helwani. I think he's a scumbag for what he did to Ariel Helwani. And in BZ's defense, I will say one thing. I didn't give Dana White a pass. I do think the mainstream media has given Dana White a pass. I'll admit that. But in the same token, Showtime really tried to suppress this Tank Davis thing too as well. Hi, BZ. How are you doing, brother?
One thing, please. One thing. I'm not calling to argue. One thing, please. One thing. How you turn this camera around?
Turn your phone. You got a phone? Turn your phone to landscape.
Landscape.
I'll do anything I can to help you.
How do you turn the camera around? Like the front camera?
You're fine right now.
There should be a button in StreamYard to reverse your camera.
There it goes. That's what I'm asking, Maestro. How do you do that?
Go to settings. There should be a button for settings.
Okay, hold on real quick. Hold on. Sorry for missing our show up. But hey, Roger, your name is Roger Diaz. Let me show you where I live at, Roger Diaz. And this is not a rental. This is not a rental. Hold on, Roger. This is not a rental, okay? I'm gonna show you my career. This is not a rental. This is my house. I don't live in the basement. Roger, are you still on the phone, Roger? I want you still on the phone, Roger. And then I want you to go on Beep's page. I want you to go on Beep's page and show me where you live at right now. Show me what your morning looks like.
What do you want? What do you want me to show you?
No. Go back to the regular thing. Yeah, I want Roger to come on here and show me where he live at. I want Roger to show me where he lives at.
I already told you you have a better pad than I do.
No, I want Roger, not you, Beeps. I'm past you.
I already told you.
Beeps, I'm past you. Beeps. Yeah. I want you to show me where you live at, Roger. You see my stairs? Yeah. Roger, I want you to see where I live at, Roger. You see where I live at, Roger? So if you think you're talking to some regular nigga, no.
I already told you, BZ. You, BZ. You're official. Roger. You're official, BZ. Don't worry about that.
Roger, when you think you come on, you talking to any single nigga, one of these Yankee niggas that ain't got no culture, man, Jimmy account. You hear me? You better have manners, Mr. Diaz in the comments.
Easy.
You come on here and show me where you live at.
BZ, you want to
Thank
apologize?
you, Beebs.
You want
Beebs.
to
Beebs,
apologize to me?
Beebs,
You want to apologize to me, BZ? You want to apologize to me for the way you disrespected me or no? I'll give you
listen, you know what? I'm going to apologize for one reason because I
knew you would. I knew you would.
Let me go. You asked me a comment that you're going to answer. You was in the I went in the comment and I said some shit I should have never said about you don't have no kids, no wife, but you pissed me off though. But hold on, let me go. You pissed me off. You know why?
I'm gonna die alone. That's a fact.
Oh my God, Beebs. Come on,
die
bro.
alone. That's a fact. I'm not denying
Beebs,
that.
Come on, Beebs. Beebs. Come on, please. Go back to when I first came on your. Go back to when I first came on your show, and listen. Did I say you was racist, or I said you're coming off racist? I want you to go listen to it. I want you to go to the beginning of the show. When
I'm sensing a little remorse here, BZ. I have to be honest.
Whatever you want to say. I want you to go back when I first jumped on your live today, and I said what I said, and then I went to Maestro. Listen to what I said. If I said you're a racist, I apologize. Or if I said you're coming off like a racist,
I accept your apology, BZ, because I already know. I already knew you were going to say.
You know why you mad?
I already knew you were going to say you were sorry. I already knew you were going to say you were sorry because I know you didn't mean it. I know you didn't mean it.
I didn't call you racist. I never said you was racist. I said you're coming off racist.
All right, it's fine.
Hold on. You know what you mad about? You mad because I called your ass out in the comments, and I know you seen that shit because you deleted it. I didn't delete that. I call you and Maestro ass.
I didn't delete your comments.
Yes, you did. You deleted it. Yes, you did. I've been checking my notification for a week straight. I still can't get an answer.
I already gave you an answer.
Not on my comments.
I did. I'll show it to you. I'll show it to you.
Hold on, Joe.
I responded to your comment.
Sign up for membership. You get priority replies on your comments.
No, I replied to him.
Sign up for a membership, BZ. You're gonna get priority replies on your comments. And that goes.
How much you charging? How much you charging people, man? How much?
Priority replies. Join the membership.
How much?
I'm pretty sure Joe's membership started only $1.99. I mean, you go.
No, they're only $1. Here's your thing. Shaking my head. Did you come out and say sorry? Right? Look at this. Watch this. It says 2 replies right there. You see it? 2 replies.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Hold on.
I see it.
It says 2 replies. Watch this now.
No, I didn't see. I see it right now, but I didn't see that you replied. So, hey, Roger Diaz.
Here what it says. Here's my reply.
Roger Diaz.
BZ, set your notifications and sign up for a membership.
For what? For what? I think he did hit her. The police report.
You think he did hit her? You think he?
See my comment? This is my reply.
Beebs, hold up, Beebs. I'm gonna call you.
I'm happy about the fact that he hit her.
Beebs,
I'm happy about that he did that.
Beebs, I'm gonna call you out, Beebs. You lied on your show this morning, and you didn't say allegedly. You said she had a busted lip and she had a bruise on the police report. That's not on the police report. That's a lie.
It is on the police report.
Go bet me $100 right now. You bet me $100 right now. You pull it up right now and shut me the fuck up this morning, please. Hey, listen, and go subscribe to my page, Round the Way Podcast. Round the Way Podcast. Go subscribe to the page, Round the Way Podcast. Round the Way Podcast. Yeah, baby. I had Adrian Broner a couple days ago. Now yeah.
Oh, you did? You did?
Yeah. Go check it out. Maestro.
Drop your email in the private chat, BZ.
Maestro, you a black man, Maestro. Yeah, Jimmy Canto. One time Eric and Beebs talking that fuckery, get on their ass.
I mean, listen, I already said what I had to say, brother.
I respect it. Listen.
Let me talk.
Y'all, if y'all think that I'm saying no, don't bash Javante Davis because he just hit somebody and crashed and almost killed a lady. I'm not saying that. If that was you asked the question, if that was me, I was suing for every fucking penny he had.
The police report stated that Davis.
If you ask me, I'm going to court every day with my daughter to make sure that he gets time because he almost fucking killed my daughter and she had a baby. She was pregnant. I would be pissed off. What?
The police report stated that Davis struck a woman on the right side of her head with a
Hold on,
hand slap.
Joe. So BZ, I don't understand what the issue then is. Of this is set for trial. It's 14 counts, right? And they're planning for an April fight. So listen, if I'm an employer, right, and somebody's coming to me for a job, and the job is set to start in April, and then they say, you know what, I got these 14 counts. The judge wouldn't allow me to accept the plea deal, but I still want this job, and I'm going to do all this great stuff for you. I wouldn't hire them. No, let's get the trial out of the way.
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. Let me explain something to you, BZ. I'm going to tell you the truth. You don't have to believe me if you don't want to believe me.
No, go ahead.
I applied for this job because I used to be in the food industry, and I used to work for healthcare facilities, and I used to be a dietary manager.
Can I go?
Right?
Can I go?
Let me just finish. I had charges on my report that I wasn't even convicted of, right? And I actually had to get my misdemeanors expunged, right? This lady said to me, let me finish. Again, you got to let me finish. You got to let me finish. Okay? I have a scar on my arm. I got in a fight, and I got in a fight with knives. Here's a scar on my arm right there, right? So I was charged with assault and battery with a deadly weapon, right? And I was proven innocent. But just the fact that I was charged with that, right? She made me get a court document, right? And I had to get all this paperwork, and I had to write a statement and explain what happened just so I could be considered for the job. And I wasn't even convicted of the crime. So, I mean, you know, it's hard
Beebs.
in the real world,
Beebs,
even with charges over your head, a lot of employers won't hire you.
Beebs,
I'm just telling you the truth.
Of course, Beebs, you're right. But Beebs, can I say something, Beebs?
Go ahead.
Me and you are broke. If a company knows that Beebs gonna come here and Beebs could get on that phone and bring in $5 million within 1 month, they might take a chance. But
Since you wanna floss,
I'm not flossing.
Let me floss. Let me floss a little bit here. Since you want to floss, I mean, that ain't broke. That ain't broke right there, bro.
No.
Is that broke? I mean,
no, it's not broke, Beebs.
That ain't broke, right?
No,
what is that?
Beebs,
That's a quarter. That's $250,000. I mean,
yes.
That ain't rich. That ain't rich, but that ain't broke, bro.
No, Beebs.
I mean, that ain't broke.
Beebs. You misunderstand.
Then if I cash in my pensions and shit, I'm above a half million, bro.
Beebs, I also said I was broke.
5 years, I'm gonna have $1 million, bro. I mean, I'm not broke, but I'm not Tank Davis money either. But go ahead.
That's all I'm trying to say. We can't
since we flossing.
We're not flossing. And listen, Beebs, I think you take my words. You need to listen to me more and stop getting so technical. I'm not saying you're broke. I said
stop getting technical.
We are broke. We are broke compared to a person like Gervonta Davis. Yes, I'm not saying you're broke. I'm just saying compared to like a big old boxer and how much money he can bring in for Showtime, $5 million at the gate, pay-per-view buys, this is a reason why they would take that chance. Me and you as a broke person now that works for a company, and you beat up your wife and you beat up your girlfriend. We ain't got time for you. What else? All you gonna do is bring trouble to us. That's all. The Showtime now. Tank Davis, $5 million at the gate. He could do this. He could do that. That's the reason why they would do that, bro. That's the reason why. Rolly for a perfect example. I didn't think Rolly did it.
Okay,
I don't think Mike Tyson did it. I'm gonna go one. I'm gonna go one better. I'm one of the few people that question. I don't even think OJ did it, and I get destroyed for that.
I'm not even there. Hold up. I'm muted.
I would have voted if I was on that jury. I would have voted not guilty for OJ. I'm
not even on that. I don't listen. I'm talking about Rolly. Because you asked earlier about Rolly, right? All right. So Rolly, right? I didn't think Rolly did it, but the difference though with Rolly and Gervonta Davis, you're asking me is Gervonta Davis. The girl came out and said that I'm sorry the next day. Rolly's people was actually pushing it that yo. He did this to me. She was on Twitter going hard on Twitter for days and weeks, even after it came out. So that's why Showtime had to take it off. it's a different time. It's Me Too, cancel culture. You have someone that's out there saying that you raped me. Now, Gervonta Davis' girlfriend now, she came out and said, okay, did that. The next day, she came out and said, I'm sorry. So I see why Showtime kept the fight on. Okay, you're talking about the hit and run in Baltimore. That's a criminal case right there.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
And I'm going to respect your opinion. Statistically, right? 80% of the women that say that they've been a victim of domestic violence, right? 80% of them recant their claims. You don't think that they recant their claims because they look at the situation and say this guy is my, he supports me. I need him to be in my life to support me. He's the father of my child. Or the guy goes back and apologizes and says, I'll never do it again. You don't think they change their mind based off of those things? Because the data says that.
Of course.
You don't think that could have happened here, though? Honestly,
no.
Do you 100% believe that she is lying? There's not one doubt. There's not one doubt in your mind. You have not one. You have not one doubt in your mind that maybe she's recanted because she's trying to protect him.
No,
right,
no.
I have to respect your opinion.
Because the reason why she did it, what's the fuck up what he had going on? Because she was mad at him because he cheated on her. So she was mad. You ever heard? So I ain't trying to take no shots at you, but you don't have a woman, so you wouldn't know. A woman scorn is one of the worst things. So when a woman get mad at you, bro, about you cheating, she's gonna come ways to fuck with you differently, or anything that women is more emotional. Women are emotional creatures. They do stuff out of emotions. She probably was mad at him because he said he was cheating. She went in the bathroom. She wrote shit on the mirrors. She put shit on his toothbrush. She was mad, bro. She was mad. She got cheated on. She caught his ass cheating. Fuck, nigga, you know what? I'm gonna send your ass to jail, nigga. You keep on playing with me. And she sent his ass to jail. She woke up the next day and said, damn, this shit went viral. This shit is too big.
The case is still open though, right?
No, because it's a domestic case. It's
you know why? You know why the case is still open?
Listen, I'm from Broward County.
Do you know why the case is still open? Yes or no?
Because it's a domestic violence case. They don't post.
No, that's not why the case is still open.
I live in Broward County.
The case is still open because they have evidence. They have evidence. They have evidence.
No, there's no evidence. There's no evidence. Listen,
so in your opinion, that the police lied on the police report.
Bitch, I know people that know the girl. Goddamn. Are you happy now? The girl was mad. The man cheated on her. You're gonna see. Did the police lie on the police report? Yes or no? Oh no, she can lie and say that. She can lie and tell the police that he slapped her on the police report. She can do that.
They said they saw blood. They said they saw blood on her mouth. They said they saw blood on her mouth.
No, that never came out.
That was
never happened.
I just read you the police report. It did come out, Beezy. Please. We have to deal in reality now. It's on the police report. Please admit that. Please.
Oh, okay, I'm wrong. I never seen that.
It's on the police report.
Okay, I didn't see that.
You can go to any court and you can get a copy of a police report. You can do it, Beezy. It's your right as a citizen.
Well. You asked me a question. And I think I answered it fair. Yes, there's women out here that recant their stories, but I feel like in this situation, that's not what happened.
So, do you think the police lied about her having a bloody lip? Yes or no?
How did she get that? How did she get that bloody lip?
I don't know. Allegedly, it was from him.
Okay, so is it possible that she was trying to hit me, and when she was trying to hit me, something happened, and my elbow probably hit her lip probably and bust her lip? Is that possible? Do we know exactly what happened that day?
Anything is possible. I'm going off of what is probable.
Joe, Beezy's had his say. Beezy, I'm going to give you 30 more seconds. If you got any last final words, because we do have to get on to another topic. Beezy, go for it.
Beebs, just be fair. That's it.
Are you going to fly me out to that nice house one day, man, so we can have a barbecue together, or no?
You want to come on the podcast? You want to come on the podcast? I'll fly you out. I'll give you a ticket. But Beebs, right. You have to be fair, Beebs. That's the only thing I'm saying. I'm not even mad at you because I actually like your show. I don't even know why I like your show.
You like me. You like me as a person, man. You know you like me as a person. Admit you fuck with the Beeb. Admit you fuck with the Beeb.
I do, but you fucking piss me off when I see shit like that. I'm like, damn.
You get mad when I don't. You shouldn't get mad. Why do you get mad? Why do you get mad when I disagree with you, man? We just have a disagreement of opinion.
Easy, thank you for coming on. Thank you.
Bless up. Good morning. Have a good day.
The rest of your Saturday. Thank you.
Bless up. I'm gonna leave my email in the thing for you.
Private chat it.
I'll copy it down.
Yeah, private chat in an email. Thank you.
How do you private? Okay, I got you.
Yeah, just put it in there. All right. So that was Beezy, ladies and gentlemen. He had his say. I dropped a video on my channel just before we move on from this Gervonta Tank Davis topic, because there's something else I want to talk to you about, Joe. I dropped this on my channel. I didn't react to it, Joe. So I'd like you to have a look and a listen, and then maybe we can talk about it. So the title of my video is Max and Cappinger riding tank like Secretariat. The Ryan Garcia tank fight isn't happening next. Stop the cap. Do you think that they're doing enough work here, Joe, on explaining the severity of these charges that Tank is facing? I'll let you guys be the judge of that. Let's have a listen. This is Max Kellerman and Mike Coppinger.
I'm Max Kellerman, and with me now, ESPN boxing insider Mike Coppinger. This past weekend, Mike, Tank Davis stopped Hector Luis Garcia when Garcia couldn't answer the bell for the ninth. Tank is not only an excellent, exciting, punishing fighter, he's a ticket seller, an actual star in a sport that doesn't have many nowadays.
I want you guys to pay attention to that graphic, by the way, and what it says that Tank David actually did last weekend. Have a look at that graphic as we continue.
Is Ryan Garcia another star next?
Max, I believe we're going to see that fight. And as I said many times on this show, I think that is the biggest fight you could make in all of boxing commercially. Now, Golden Boy is still yet to receive.
Biggest fight that you can make in boxing commercially, Joe?
I disagree.
You saw the graphic saying that he successfully defended his WBA title?
The final contract from PBC.
Go for it, Joe.
I was just about to say, respectively, and this is just my opinion, and obviously it's arguable. I still think Joshua versus Wilder is the biggest fight in boxing.
I agree.
I even think it's bigger than Fury versus Usyk.
But I also think that Fury versus Usyk is a bigger fight than Tank versus Ryan. I'm sorry.
I agree with that as well too. But I think Wilder versus
I would even say that Canelo versus Benavidez is a bigger fight as well. If that were to ever happen.
Davis.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
Terms are agreed to for an April 15th fight in Las Vegas. And one more issue, of course, Gervonta Davis has a February 16th trial for his alleged involvement in a hit and run in Baltimore from 2020.
As usual in boxing, and by the way, a little later in the show, I'm going to get into this, but, Tank and Garcia, I want to see that fight. But, Shakur Stevenson is in.
And I'm just going to leave it there. I mean, that was it. That was the entire discussion about the 14 charges, Joe. Max didn't even think it was important enough to respond to.
I know a lot of people want to make this comparison about how Dana White's situation is being handled in comparison to Tank's. But if I'm being honest, I think both incidences are being suppressed. If I'm being honest, I just think both incidences are being suppressed. I really do believe that.
Yeah,
I really do believe that.
Very few.
No one's going out of their way to cover both stories. Really.
Fury versus Usyk is not big. I respectfully disagree with that. Definitely as a global fight, but this is the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world, guys. What exactly are Tank and Ryan fighting for? I mean, Tank has a 135 regular belt, which everybody knows isn't the world title. Devin Haney is the lightweight champion of the world. Devin Haney holds the real version of the WBA title. Devin Haney is undisputed. So stop the cap. Also, this fight isn't even going to be taking place at lightweight for the Reggie belt. So why exactly is this a bigger fight? Somebody's got to really, really explain that one to me, because I just don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, it's worthy of a discussion, and it's worthy of an argument. if I'm being frank here, you know, some people, you know, the proof's in the pudding, man. Like a lot of fights that we think are going to be big fights, they don't always turn out to be what we expect, right? So what we're going to have to wait and see what happens. Like in all honesty, I did think that third Canelo versus Golovkin fight would do more than 600,000, and I was wrong. I thought it could do at least 850 in the United States, and it did 600,000. So a lot of times we have these perceptions, and they don't always pan out the way we think they're going to pan out. That's the way it is, right? None of us have crystal balls, right?
That's exactly the way it is. So look, just a quick recap before we get into the last topic. DAZN revenue has increased to the detriment, I should say, of boxing fans. We're getting less content that's included as part of our monthly or yearly subscription. The monthly subscription has gone up. The yearly subscription has gone up. And now pay-per-view fights have been introduced. So if you want to watch Joshua and you're in the UK, that's pay-per-view. If you want to watch Canelo, that's pay-per-view here in the US. So that's why revenue has gone up. People are out here screaming and waving the pom-poms, you know, coming to the defense of DAZN. Why? I don't know. I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. I don't know why they need working men and women to be their cheerleaders, but okay, I guess your favorite fighters fight under the platform. But this increased revenue isn't necessarily a good thing for boxing fans, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, what has it given us? What has the increased revenue done to help us as consumers? What have we spent the whole hour talking about? What are we getting for that increased revenue? And a lot of these companies, and you know, even in other you know, factions of life where, you know, we're dealing with your utility companies or what have you, everyone's raising prices, right? And they're using inflation as the reason for it. But once again, inflation is one thing, but price gouging is another. And when you're increasing your price, right, 50%, right, when inflation rate is at 7%, is it, once again, is it inflation or is it price gouging?
It's 100% increase if we're talking about the monthly. It's 50% increase if you're talking about the yearly. So
correct.
Yeah.
Thank you for the correction. But yeah, I buy the yearly. So, you know, but once again, I've had people make the argument, right? Why am I going to pay the yearly when you look at the schedule these first 2 months, I'm only getting like one fight. I'm only getting one fight. And if you want to count the female fight, I'm getting 2 fights in 2 months. So what the hell am I paying a subscription for if I'm not getting, you know, these fights? And the amount of fights that I'm being offered is less than it was the previous year. Significantly less than. Not slightly less than, significantly less than. We've already went to the numbers, right?
Yeah, and I'm not going to well, I might as well just quickly go into it before we move to the last topic. Even the fucking KSI, what is it called? League, the X series,
the misfits now the content is so, they're so desperate to get content now they're entering the realm of this you know, influencer type league now with these types of fights.
That's on pay-per-view now. Even that,
and these aren't even free. These, as you just mentioned, these are pay-per-view fights too. So it's getting the plot is thickening, and it's getting more ridiculous by the minute with what DAZN is trying to do here, in my opinion.
Oh, I mean, you're 100% right. And guys, let's not forget that initially, when it was introduced, we were told that pay-per-view was dead. That's what we were told. We were told all of these, you know, amazing things about how much boxing we're going to be able to consume for a flat monthly fee. And me, being someone who from the very inception of DAZN here in the United States, who's paid my dues month after month, or actually year after year now, I got to tell you, I'm a little bit disappointed, especially when I get so much more for so much less with my subscription to ESPN Plus. And by the way, I don't want to act like I don't have any criticisms for ESPN Plus, because I absolutely do, especially with the tech situation. I mean, I log in to watch boxing and I got to do all kind of convoluted things, typing in the name of the fight. Boxing should be what appears first when I log into ESPN Plus, because it's the only fucking thing I watch on ESPN Plus, realistically. So why is it that I see everything before I see boxing, including MMA? So that's anything last thing to say on this, Joe, before we move on to the last thing?
I think it's good. I think those are valid points. I wouldn't disagree with anything you just said there, to be honest with you.
There you go. So listen, we did it before about the mandates. Joe and me, we were pretty much the only two people that I can think of in the YTBC that were defending fighters that weren't taking the vaccine, that were critical of mandates of mask wearing and, fights being canceled, et cetera, over a vaccine that's essentially proven to be ineffective for what the claims were. We went over a video last week where, politician after politician was saying, take it and you won't catch it. I take it. Actually, I caught it. I caught it once. I caught it twice later on. The other topic that really got us yelled at was the Russian invasion into the Ukraine, right? From the very outset, I thought that it was highly hypocritical that anybody living in the United States would be critical of anything any other country did, honestly, vis-a-vis another country. I mean, United States went halfway around the world to invade Iraq. It invaded Afghanistan, involved in Syria, Libya, in fact, still in Syria right now, occupying the oil-rich part of that country, occupying the wheat-producing part of that country, still there with troops. Yemen, supporting the Saudis. Israel, vis-a-vis the Palestine. You could go on and on and on, not to mention all of the bases all over the place. So I never quite understood why people in the United States were getting so into their feelings, not about a country going halfway around the world to illegally and attack another country, but a country going across its borders into a military conflict. And we weren't actually, pro-Putin or pro-Russia invasion, but we were understanding the dynamics of it, right? Ukraine being lured into this military alliance with Russia's embassies, Ukraine essentially threatening to be a base point and a spot where nuclear warheads could be pointed at Ukraine. And we were all told, Joe, that this guy was the hero. This guy was the savior. This guy is someone who's defending democracy and everything else. I'm talking about Zelensky right here, who's come and lectured politicians here in the U.S. about how we should be spending our hard-earned tax dollars. But Joe, you sent this to me the other day, and I said, we got to talk about this. So I'm going to play it real quick, and then Joe, I want to hear what you have to say, and I want everybody else to hear what you have to say on this particular topic. This is Tulsi Gabbard speaking about Zelensky. Here we go.
Look at what Zelensky's democracy is. You see no freedom of the press. He has shut down any media that he does not control, his government does not control. He has gotten political opposition arrested, made sure that that's happened. As you mentioned, he shut down the biggest Ukraine church in the country. And I found this quote today. He has actually threatened to punish, quote, any Christian caught worshiping in unapproved ways. So this is the democracy that they are saying, well, we need all of your money, our money, taxpayer dollars to go and defend. This is their shining example of democracy. It's no surprise then when we look at what's happening here at home, Tucker, and it's no surprise how we see the political and power elite so easily and willing to undermine our own democracy, undermine our own freedoms, abusing their power to achieve their own political interests, because they look to Zelensky's democracy and they see a reflection and opportunity for themselves.
There you go, Joe. Have at it. You're on mute.
I hate to, do what I accuse other people of doing and go to extremes. But if I'm being honest, isn't that basically fascism when you're controlling the government, telling people what political parties should exist. And any opposition you're basically doing away with, right? You're basically giving people one choice and one choice only. It's kind of in a way fascism, and we love to throw that word around so freely, and I don't like to throw that word along so freely. But if we're being honest, and we want to call out these hypocrites, particularly in politics and the media, these guys are picking and choosing, who can do certain things, right? So if you're against something, you should be against it no matter who does it. But why is it okay that this man is doing it? Is it because it's politics? Is it because we have a financial interest? Do we have a political interest? Because something suits our needs, then automatically we can just change our stance on something, right? We pick and choose which dictator and which questionable character is okay to deal with, right? You hear statements like, "Oh, why would we want to sit down and talk with people from Iran?" And when you go over the nuclear deal, some people are for that nuclear deal, some people are against it. But a common theme is, why do we sit down and talk to dictators who want to kill us or who hate us? But yet again, we'll sit down and talk to people over in Saudi Arabia, right? We'll sit down and talk with and deal with people in the Ukraine, right? When they share some of the same ideology, right? So, I mean, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? And how much credibility do we have as a government when we accuse other people of propaganda, but we're part of our own propaganda over here?
You're absolutely right. And you're talking about a government that shut down newspapers, shut down opposition parties, shut down churches, all right, because they don't like the opinions of the people running those various institutions. And here's my thing to bring it back to boxing. The WBC, the WBA, they're not allowing Russians to fight in world title fights. They're not allowing Russians to be ranked because their country, their government is going to battle with that guy, the guy we just heard about, the guy that was running a government that was really doing, let's just call it what it is, ethnic cleansing of Russian language speakers in Eastern Ukraine for years, right? With US weapons, but it's okay, right? So Russian fighters can't get ranked because their government is in a conflict with that guy and his government? Really? Does that really sound fair? That's another thing we were against from the beginning. Oh yeah, but Joe. Oh yeah, but Maestro. The babies are dying and women and children are getting killed. I mean, what do we got to say, guys? That only matters when it's happening on one side and not on the other, right? So listen, I'm against all of the bans on Russian fighters. I'm just going to make it very clear. They are civilians. They have nothing to do with that conflict. And by the way, look at who the conflict is against. Look at who we're defending. Look, as a government, as a people, look at who we're sending tens of billions of dollars to when we have problems here at home.
That's hypocrisy at its finest.
100%. So, any last words, Joe?
No, I think we had for the most part, we had some really good discussion. I think an argument can be made that DAZN had a slightly better quality of matchups, right? Slightly comparable, right? But there was less boxing on DAZN compared to ESPN. And was that arguable slight improvement or quality, if you will, on DAZN, was it worth the 2.5 increase in price? Two and a half times increase in price, right? We already did the numbers. If you include the pay-per-views, it's $269 with DAZN for 8 fights. And with ESPN platforms, it was 13 fights with 1 pay-per-view, and that was $159. Right? So you paid $100 more for DAZN and you got 8 fights as opposed to 13 fights. And we rated the fights, and we came up with 7.8 for DAZN, with 7.3 with ESPN. And keep in mind, if you're going to do more fights, there's a probability that not all of them are going to be great fights, because a lot of times with quantity, sometimes you suffer a slight decrease in quality, right? But once again, if you want to be objective and argue, and you want to give both sides of the argument, some of these DAZN fights were only slightly better, right? And then you have to ask yourself, when you look at how much money DAZN has to work with in comparison to ESPN, they should be hitting it out of the park, and they're really not. They're like neck and neck. If I'm being fair, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So that's the way I look at it.
So that's the way it is. Big up to D-Style Boxing. Everybody go check out D-Style Boxing. Thank you for the super chat. All right. He goes live regularly, so make sure you also hit the notification bell. And thank you for everyone who turned up today, even those who came on and were very upset with the beep, and even with Maestro to a certain extent. But there you go. That is going to be it, right, Joe, for us for today?
That's it.
All right. So thank you, everyone, guys, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Not any fights today, right, Joe? I mean, just the KSI, BS. Oh, and the ESPN card that I was considering going to.
The Exagba fight, but I guess Oscar Rivas. Why did Oscar Rivas pull out again? What happened to him? Was he what type of injury did he have?
I'm not sure what the
I have to go look that up.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the injury was, but when Rivas pulled out, I mean, that meant that my guys Mark Ramsey, my guy Russ Amber aren't going to be there, and I'm like, do I really want to go to this fight?
No, it's not worth it.
It's about 3.5 hours away from me. I'd have to rent a car because I don't own a car. I got my credential. I can go there, but I'm just not feeling it, man.
Yeah, you're not feeling it.
I'm not feeling it.
Is it worth the time and energy is what you have to ask.
Plus a night at a hotel and other expenses, rental car, gas money, hotel for a Jagba. I don't know, but thank you guys. We'll see everybody else soon. Make sure you check out Ringside Reporter Live tomorrow. Joe is going to be going live with my man Eric Lorta. All right, so thank you guys. You guys all take care. That's going to be it. We are out of here.